Like the rest of you, we're trying to make sense of this crazy thing that we call life. I'm RJ.
I'm Khalil.
And welcome to Try Not to Overthink It. I'm a licensed professional counselor.
And I'm a licensed professional social worker.
Every day we find ourselves discussing many different topics ranging from trending news to the state of our society as a whole. You name it, we probably talk about it. And after many heated debates, we decided to expand and share our conversations and share them with you from both a therapist and a social worker's point of view, and hopefully get your input. So if this is your first time here with us, we want to thank you for checking us out, and we hope that you'll stay and become part of the conversation, as well as participate in the conversations with us. So today we're going to talk about racism. That is a very, 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 very deep topic, especially in today's society. There are so many tragic events that have occurred in the last 10 plus years, especially recently, that has people on edge, people afraid, people nervous, right. People anxious, people just don't know what to do anymore. And so as both of us being African Americans, we thought that it was a very appropriate thing for us to talk about in regards to racism here in America and some of the things that we have noticed as both a therapist and a social worker. For me, as a person that has lived all over the place, moved around with my parents being military, had the opportunity to experience different people, different cultures, different places, different countries. My viewpoint's a little bit different. My viewpoint, I never really experienced racism firsthand growing up. Never really like that. I never really had the opportunity to experience it until I became an adult. And then, let me correct myself. I wasn't aware. I was
about to say, I'm pretty sure you experienced some. Your parents probably didn't, blame it all on the color thing. Parents are very good at covering up they're very covert when it comes to certain things. So they probably protected you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I can agree with is the fact that I probably experienced it, but I probably wasn't aware of it firsthand because I was a child. And as a child, you're kind of ignorant to those things. You're ignorant to what's going on around you. You don't really recognize that something is bad or something is good until you're much older. And so on the topic of ignorance, for a lot of us, me personally, I think that with a lot of racism, it stems from ignorance, stems from a place of ignorance, because you don't come into this world out of your mother knowing to hate people, knowing to treat people differently. That's something that's taught to you. And a lot of people's thoughts, feelings, opinions about other people normally are not from firsthand experience. It's normally from something that someone else has told you about those people. Someone has mentioned about those people, or something that has been made a joke about somebody else that's not you. And it becomes one of those things where I feel like, and you and I have had this conversation before offline in regards to conversations.
Right.
I feel like in order to combat racism, the things that need to start occurring are conversations of education, not conversations of confrontation. Because when you have those conversations of education, you are able to shape and transition someone's form of reality from where it currently is. I can't name 5 things that as an adult now that my parents made me do when I was a child that I still do to this day. So when you come at someone from an education standpoint, where you're leading with love and you're leading with respect, people tend to respond to you in kind. Most people, especially when you are attacking their core values, their core beliefs, the walls are up immediately. The walls are up, their eyes are closed and their ears are closed, and they're not necessarily in a mode of reception. But as you slowly start to come at them with love and respect and come from a place of love and respect, right, people tend to respond to you more, and they tend to be willing to receive it. Right. And when you provide them with that love and respect, as well as actual facts, not opinions, not feelings, not what I think, but what you can actually prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, it starts to cause a disconnection between their beliefs and what is really real.
Right.
Caused a cognitive dissonance.
Right.
So they either continue to live in La La Land that has been manufactured for them or by, for them by other people that have raised them or been around them, or they come to grips with what reality really is.
Right.
And so a prime example of that is Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis is famous he's a musician. Mm-hmm. He's famous for getting people to walk away from the Klan. So these and I didn't know that they actually carry cards that actually signify their membership in the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, it's a membership, right?
I had no
membership like you join a fraternity. It's the same thing.
And that's what's so crazy about it is I had no idea until he was doing an interview about it, and he explained that he met a gentleman, and the gentleman was giving him some respect about his ability to play the piano. And so he was explaining to the man about, where he learned to play the piano, X, Y, and Z. And so the man tells him, I've never had a drink with a black man before. And so he's like, you've never had a drink with a black man before? And so one of the guys was like, tell him, show him. So he pulled out his card, and showed him his membership card in the Klan.
Right.
And through that initial conversation, of just respect, mutual understanding, he didn't immediately become upset. He didn't immediately become disgruntled. And how could you and how dare you, through that initial conversation of respect and mutual agreement and understanding, he was able to develop a friendship with that gentleman and get him to change his thought process on people of color.
Did he have a drink with him though?
Yeah, he had a drink with him. He had a drink with him.
That was all I was thinking about. Did you sit down, or were you like, oh no, this is a Klan member and he might be trying to get me drunk and kill me?
No, he had a drink with him,
and the back of the pickup truck.
That drink turned into conversations. Those conversations turned into change of thought process. And it even set up for him to meet a leader of the Klan. Like there's whole levels to being in the Klan. He met a leader in the Klan, and through conversations of having with that guy, opened his eyes and got him to step away from the Klan as well.
Right.
But
some of their ideology, not all of it was negative. We talked about that, the different ideology and belief systems. Because it was a community-based organization, they were trying to take care of their community. And of course, also a lot of nationalism was born out of that as well, which is kind of the side issue that we see now, per se. With we want to promote Americans and such and such. But American is no longer defined as Anglo-Saxon. White.
So the thing about that is, that whole thought process is antiquated, because when you look at America as a whole was not one particular ethnic group. Right. America is a country built of immigration.
Right. Well, let's blow people's minds now. If you go do your history, at one time, the amount of slaves that had, entered our country through the Atlantic and was dispersed were at a higher amount compared to the Europeans. People forget about that. Slavery had that they had brought that many slaves into the Americas at one point in time.
I've seen where people are protesting and rallying, and you have the different groups come together and they're just arguing, and they're both sides. Like I said, like you just alluded to, the organization started from one thing, but like the saying goes, the road to hell was paved with good intentions. people started one way, and then it just, when you incorporate the human element into things and people's individual thoughts and people's individual feelings into things, it adulterates and changes what the organization probably was initially meant to be. Right.
Well, the groupthink process starts.
Exactly, the groupthink process, and then you start incorporating individual think into it, where this particular individual wants to incorporate their thoughts and their feelings into something, and it changes it. And so when you look at where we come as Americans, if you were to do your 23andMe, most of us have so many different ethnic groups inside of us. There is no such thing as American, because again, America was built up of a conglomeration of immigrants. You know, Christopher Columbus, when he came here, he was an immigrant. You know, when the Spanish came here, they were immigrants as well. When we were brought here,
social workers in the Chicago area, they were dealing with people in the Chicago area who were looked down upon in those like in the inner cities because they were mixed people. I'm not just saying black and white. They're Native American and white, Asian and white. They were mixed, and a lot of the people didn't look down. They were undesirables because a lot of those people in the Chicago area were of different descents, Irish and Polish. And there was a melting pot, and a lot of those mixed children that were there came from products of prostitution, products of, rape, all those other things. And so they would be in those orphanages, right? And the first social workers were mostly women, and they were working with that population. And this is all stuff I had to learn this in school. I didn't know this. That we've always had a melting pot. This was back in the 19th century, early 19th century, in the 1800s. So people forget about that. I didn't know that there was people running around and all these mixed races, and people have always had those beliefs about mixed race people and people who weren't full, but they've always been a melting pot here.
I mean, it just becomes one of those things where people don't even know because they choose to not educate themselves. And so that is where it is important that we are sitting down having these conversations of education, because ignorance is the absence of knowledge. Like people use ignorance and stupidity interchangeably as synonyms, and they're not. Right. Ignorance is the absence of knowledge, whereas stupidity is having the knowledge and choosing to do nothing with it. So when you are, ignorance tends to breed fear because we fear those things that we don't understand. If you let that ignorance get out of hand and get out of control and go unchecked, it escalates and turns into hatred. And if you let that get out of control and go unchecked, it leads to destruction. Because most of us want to destroy those things that we don't understand because they scare us. We, as prime example, rats, for example. If you have a house that's infested with rats, you put a trap down. Those rats are xenophobic. They're afraid of anything that's changing their environment. It will take them days of seeing that same object, that same trap. It'll take them days for them to get used to it, for them to even go get brave enough to go near it, for them to get caught in it. So human beings, we're the same way. We do what's comfortable for us. We hang out with people that look like us, that talk like us, that are from the same location as us. Right. It's a fact that if you put a mixture of people into a room, they will all congregate to the people that look like them.
Right. And usually if they do deviate, or they do go in with another culture and try to assimilate to another culture, that's because they have issues within their own culture.
Because you have those people that are in a crisis of identity.
Yes,
where they don't identify with this. They don't identify with this culture, but they do identify with this culture. So you have people like Rachel Dolezal, for example.
Right.
She doesn't identify herself as a Caucasian woman. She identifies herself as an African American woman. Now you were walking around parading as an African American woman, and then you got found out, and then the facade went away, and then it came out that you identify as African American woman, but that's what you should have led with, instead of pretty much playing dress up. Right. So for me, I don't knock her for identifying as an African American woman. What I knock her for is playing dress up, because like for me as an African American man, I am going to be judged based off the color of my skin immediately. Right. There are certain situations where I walk into a room and you can tell when people are all automatically judging you based off the color of your skin. Has nothing to do with the merit of your deeds, has nothing to do with your education level, has nothing to do with what you have done right now. It has everything to do with surface level things.
Right.
Where I've spoken at events or done certain things, and first thing people say is, "Oh my God, you speak so well."
Right. Like we're not supposed to speak well. They're like, you had all this education, but you still got that slang in you that comes from the ghetto.
And
I
so,
never lived
you know,
in the
like
ghetto.
I had to ask my dad, like, should I be offended when people say that?
Right.
And, you know, he was just like, well, yes and no. He said, yes, because of the fact that some people are saying that because they're expecting something different because of the way you look.
Right.
But no, from the fact of the fact, you know, and the fact that you spoke so well, that meant something to them enough for them to say something to you in the first place.
Right.
So I say that to say this: for a lot of us as, you know, members of a marginalized population, there are things that we have to work against. We have to work against the stereotypes and the microaggressions that are labeled, I guess, levied against us. Where, you know, microaggressions, for those of you who don't know, are automatic thoughts, feelings, emotions, nonverbal, environmental slights, snubs, or insults that are either intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile or derogatory, disrespectful messages to people that are members of a marginalized population.
Right.
So there are certain things that people automatically think or may feel towards you based off of the way you look or where you're from.
Right. Especially with like Asian people or Hispanic people. I've seen it at my job. People don't even realize they're doing it. You have a Hispanic coworker, everybody like, man, you cool with tacos, right? Man, you know what? We're gonna have Chinese food this week. You in on that, right? Like,
or
that person don't like that.
Or the whole, you know, speaking incorrect English thing. You know,
we talked about that.
You know, where when they get around, you know, because most of the people that I work with tend to be African American. Now, you'll have some coworkers where they're not African American. Now, for me as a therapist, I sit back and I watch and I analyze everything. So to watch this particular coworker who's Caucasian talk one way when she's with our Caucasian coworkers, and then when she comes and sits down with us, child, girl, what else did she say?
Look, neck snapping.
Yeah, doing all of this stuff, and I'm just like,
about the clapping.
Yeah,
I told you.
You know, and I kind of look, and I'm just like, I had to ask one of my coworkers one day, do you know she only does that when she hangs out with us? Whenever she's hanging out with us, she talks like that.
She doesn't usually do that.
She doesn't usually do that. But for her, that's a stereotype. And so for her, that's what she's seen on television. That's what she's seen in movies of, as African American people. That's what we do when we are in a relaxed setting.
Yeah.
And so for her, because she's trying to connect and she's trying to form that bond, she thinks that that's how all African American people talk. And so for me, I don't talk like that.
So is imitation the best form of flattery?
But imitation is not the best form of flattery when it's not necessarily true.
Right, because not all of us do that.
Because not all of us do that.
Like that when I talk to my family members.
Even in my most laid back setting, I don't, you know, girl, child, I don't do all of that. Like, you know, so that offends me. Like, I appreciate the fact that she's trying to connect, because I have had some coworkers where they will openly acknowledge, I am afraid of you. Right. You know, they will openly acknowledge, I am afraid of you. Like, I remember being at a school one time, and all of my Caucasian classmates, they would go out and hang out on the weekends and wouldn't invite none of us. Wouldn't invite any of us. Wouldn't invite like the minority members of the class. They never invited us. So I asked one day, like, yo, what's up with that? Like, when we get back to class on Monday, they're talking about their party and them going out to dinner and stuff. I'm like, what's up with that? Well, you know, we didn't think that you guys were kind of into that stuff. What do you mean you didn't think we were kind of into that stuff?
People.
You know,
when do people not want to,
eat,
go out and,
Then they were like, well, you know, we don't listen to the rap music and we don't really do this and we really do that. And then some of the places you guys might want to go, you know, we're kind of not really into those places. And
now
you know,
that's a problem with me, because I know a lot of Black people who don't listen to rap music at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, you know what I'm saying? Like, I listen to R&B and I listen to rap or hip hop, but I listen to alternative music too. You know what I mean?
Like, my dad doesn't listen to rap music, and I mean, he's
a lot of old school people don't listen to rap music.
He don't listen to it because he thinks it's garbage. But you know, he even when he was younger, he really didn't listen to it. So for me, it becomes one of those things where they just automatically, you know, separated themselves from us and distanced themselves from us because of certain things that they thought. There was an assumption that happened. and assuming makes an ass out of you and me. And so for me in that moment, like I was upset and I had to kind of take a step back and I had to kind of analyze things and take my feelings out of it and recognize that they were making the assumptions they were making because of
you
their
had a
reality.
right to be in your feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I had
the black people always having an issue now. Like we can't be upset about certain stuff because it is what it is. No, man, we're allowed to be upset with people.
Yeah,
especially when they completely disrespect us by making assumption and presuming that we don't like something, or with black people they don't do that. Well, I like to swim. I might not want to swim in the ocean all day long. Yeah. But I don't have a problem with swimming. I took swimming lessons.
I swim very well.
I was in an all-black community pool growing up as a kid. And guess what? They made us take swim lessons. I guess they didn't want us to drown. But at the same time, I took swimming lessons with black people. You know what I mean? We all were black. I don't remember. I mean, I think might have been one or two Hispanics. But come on, we were all black.
I mean,
in a white school where they didn't even take us swimming.
I mean, it's situations like that where, we have the right to be mad. But the thing is, like where I agree with being upset. But I cannot be upset about things that I am not actively looking to change.
Right.
Like if I'm just going to sit back and complain and be a boo bird, that's why I call people who complain and don't do anything a boo bird. If I'm going to sit back and be a boo bird and not look to cause any change, then I'm just being a hater at that point.
Right.
Someone who is looking out for you and wants to elicit change is somebody I can get behind. So for me, that's where I said conversations of education have to occur, where I'm going to show you that what you thought about people of color is not true.
Right.
And I've had this conversation with my younger brother where it's not my job to teach someone how to deal with me. It's not my job to show someone how to treat, a black person or this person. It is your job. Because the thing about it, though, is who better than you to speak about being a member of a marginalized population? Who better than you to show someone and be a brand ambassador? Because the thing, like what people have to understand, when you step out into this world, you don't just represent yourself. You represent every single person who is a member of the population that you are a member of. So regardless if you are a member of the African American community, if you're a member of the male community, a member of the female community, a member of the LGBTQI plus community, you represent more than just yourself. So you have the opportunity to elicit change and be what is called a force multiplier, where one person turns to two and so on and so forth, where you're able to educate people about who you are, past good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. But again, those conversations have to come from a place of
awareness too. Not a lot of black people are self-aware to the point where they realize that we have a job to represent our culture as African Americans. When people run around, y'all black people this, y'all black people that, hey, we have we're supposed to stand up and say no. I'm an African American and I represent my culture and I do
because people talk about how, like, presently right now all we're doing is demonstrations and we're rioting and we're this and we're that. Now, I don't condone the rioting. I do not condone that. I don't condone affecting business and blocking off traffic. I do not condone that either. But I do condone the peaceful protests and the demonstrations because, again, if you want the demonstrations to stop and you want them to cease, you have to acknowledge what people are demonstrating about, what they're upset about. By sitting down and having those conversations from both sides of the aisle, people feel like they're heard and that their wrongs are being addressed, versus you just for today, I'm gonna take a knee with you. I'm gonna raise my hand up and say I support Black Lives Matter and all these different things, but you do that today, but then tomorrow it's business as usual.
Right.
And for right now in society, that's what it tends to be, where people are upset, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired of people giving lip service, and there's no actual change occurring.
Well, just like the Colin Kaepernick issue, the NFL, they were with him for the players were with him for like you said, it was a short amount of time. All of a sudden, once he got fined and done away with and blackballed, all that kneeling stopped because
Allegedly.
Jerry Jones, yeah, allegedly, but Jerry Jones and everybody else, you know what I'm saying, was like, yeah, all that's got to stop, or paychecks are going to stop, and everybody started switching up. But how are they going to play if nobody? How are they going to make any money if nobody plays? You get what I'm saying? We have to be effective in some of the things that we're willing to do too, because money makes you a slave too. It tells you that in the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
As long as you're chasing money, as long as you're chasing money, you're a slave to the money. Right. And so those are things that
if they really wanted to shut everything down. The owners, but really,
I mean, but the thing is, like, the problem with that is this right here. There are far more people, because you think of the people, just like hypothetically, if every player in the NFL was to say we're not playing, that's 1% of the millions of people who strive to want to be an NFL level player.
Right.
They'll just bring in people to replace them.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look,
they'll just bring in people to replace them.
They've had replacement players before. That and the fact that you got practice squad players who would cut off a pinky toe to be on the actual team. So I mean, again, there are effective ways to get change to occur. Hey, look, so like the union, we call them people scabs. That's what we call.
So what he did was he forced conversations to start happening.
He did.
That's what demonstrations do. Not rioting, not looting, not pillaging, but demonstrations. Right. Peaceful demonstrations force conversations. And the conversations are not always going to be sexy. They're not always going to be pretty. They're not going to be stuff that is going to be social media worthy, because that's the thing nowadays is people are doing things for the sake of social media. I want to get likes. I want to get retweets. I want people to see that I'm doing these things. But people who are really doing it from the right reason, for the right reasons, and doing it from the right places, they do it without people acknowledging them. And for me, that's the thing that, I feel like needs to occur. Is conversations need to happen, but they need to happen for the right reasons. And they need to happen consistently enough to where there's some change that's occurring, not just short-term change, but permanent change. Because again, we're all Americans. It doesn't matter if you're, African-American, Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, where you come from. If you are an American, I pay taxes.
Right. That's
the government is taxing me.
I work and I pay taxes.
I pay taxes, and so because I pay taxes, I should be viewed as an equal member. I'm entitled to equal treatment. Right. And do I think that things have gotten better? Yes, things have gotten better. As an African American man, I should have to be concerned about being stopped by the police and having to worry about not making any additional movements because the police officer may shoot me.
Well, I mean,
now
they're still killing us, men and women. So we my interactions with the police have not been that. I've had nothing but respectful interactions with the police. And so from my standpoint, now I don't do stupid stuff either in regards to having to be stopped by the police or be detained by the police, but in the times that I have been pulled over by the police, I lead with respect because I commanded a return. I've said that in previous episodes. I've learned as a therapist what you put into an interaction. Now you'll have outliers, but where no matter how respectful you are, someone's still going to give you the behind the kiss. But for the most part, what you put into an interaction is what you can expect out of it. So by the time the police officers come to my car, come to my window, I've already got my license, my registration, and I've got my insurance in hand already. So I don't have to do any additional movements. Hey, do you know why I stopped you? No, I do not. Well, you were speeding. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you because again, my day in court, like there have been times where I've beaten tickets just going to court. Police officer didn't show up. Guess what? They dropped the ticket. Right.
So going back and forth with somebody, I've learned one of the best lessons I've learned in life is know when to be quiet. Now, I'm not saying that solves all problems because by being quiet, in order for evil to triumph, the good man is stand by and do nothing.
Right. So
I'm not saying that you should just take things and just lay down and just allow things to happen to you. Yeah. But again, I recognize that every interaction that I have with someone who does not look like me is not racially driven.
Exactly.
And so I feel like if I'm going to assign that label to someone, they earn that. Not just I automatically go into it with you're treating me differently because I'm African American.
Right. And
so
that's what we talked about earlier. I don't feel as every incident, because some things are motivated just by pure, hey, sometimes people just don't like your attitude. They don't like how you speak to them. They don't like your background. I mean, regardless, not everything is motivated on race, but I think we as Black people, because we don't want to have anybody interpret the situation as we're crying wolf, we'll be like, all right, man, I'm going to step back for a minute. Or we'll be the opposite, where we're like, I'm not going to be passive in this situation. I'm going to let them know. And so we always move between the two polar opposites instead of having that middle ground.
The gray area.
Either we're too passive or we're too aggressive. There's got to be assertive in the middle. Like you said, I go out with respect. Yes, officer, what did I do? Oh, okay, officer, here's my ID. Officer, do you need anything else? All right, are you going to write me a ticket, officer? All right, you know what? I'll sign. Thank you. I'll see you in court.
Yep.
Boom.
I mean,
quick process. Get out of
there. The reason I say that is because, like, it's gotten to a point to where we're afraid of each other.
Right.
Where we're afraid of each other, where I'm afraid that someone is going to view me some kind of way, and then the other person's afraid that I'm going to view them some kind of way.
Right.
And then it makes interactions that should be painless become so tedious, like we're stepping on eggshells, because this person is, I've had people literally come up to me. I'm not trying to be a Karen, but these things are going on and on and on. And, I try not to laugh when they're telling me that. Because, one of my jobs that I do is I go out into the community and provide psychiatric services to people out in the communities. So I go to this particular consumer's house. I go to his house. His neighbors are having issues with him. His neighbors come out and they're like, hey, we're not trying to be Karens. It was a guy and his wife. Hey, we're not trying to be Karens, but this and this is going on.
Right.
And I'm trying not to laugh because my case manager's with me at that time. And so I'm trying not to laugh.
I probably would laugh. I'm like, and so what are you trying to be at this point?
But they were concerned about him. They were concerned about him. But the stereotype is that they're Caucasian. So them being Caucasian, they're telling
they're nosy
and they're being nosy and they're calling the police and they're doing. And so they were just letting me know that, hey, that's not what they were trying to do. They were just trying to concern. They were just concerned citizens. And so again,
which we should be able to do without us going to 100 real quick and be like, oh, why are you so nosy? Why are you up in?
Yeah,
we shouldn't even be assuming those things.
The same way that I, as an African American man, don't want to be villainized. I don't want to villainize someone else either.
Exactly.
And so it's just one of those
people out there. No matter how bad the world is, there are people who have good, purposeful, good deeds.
We cannot, because we have been the victim of it, where people paint us with a broad brush of this is how all people of color act. This is how all African American people, African males don't do this and don't do that. And this is how African American females act. We've been painted with a broad brush of as far as behaviors and thought processes and beliefs. For me, as a person who has experienced those in regards to, as being an adult, why would I want to do that to somebody else if I know I didn't like the way it made me feel?
Right.
My boss said it best when she said, you got to be the change you want to see in other people. That's why for me, I lead with respect. I lead with love because I want that in return. I command that in return. I want to be able to impart change upon other people. So in order to be able to impart change upon other people, I have to lead with that. Because again, if you come at somebody aggressively and off the top rope with the people's elbow, people's walls go up, their ears close, and their ears close and their eyes shut. Whereas and they're not going to be receptive to what you're telling them. If what you are telling them is being distracted by how you're telling them, you've lost them as an audience member.
Because it is about how the message is conveyed. Because even if I'm telling you something that's important, if I start yelling at you, you're not going to listen. It's a done deal.
Well, you're listening, but the thing is, there's a difference between listening and hearing.
Right.
When you're
not
listening,
listening.
Yeah. When you're listening, you're taking in what the person's saying. but you're looking at ways, you're looking for your opportunity to interject, you're looking for your opportunity to cut them off, you're looking for an opportunity to one up them or get them told. Whereas when you're hearing somebody, you're looking for an opportunity to apply it. You're taking it in, you're processing it, you're letting it marinate, and you're looking at where you can apply it in your oral life. And so when, like you said, if someone's yelling at you, you're taking in what they're saying. I guarantee you're taking what they're saying, but you're not hearing the overall message. You're like, dang, this person tripping. They hollering and screaming. They don't call me all type of MFers.
Hollering at me, I have PTSD, man. I'm gonna sit here and be like, okay. I'm backing up, and I'm getting ready for the next thing to escalate. I'm a professional. It's crisis management after that, crisis intervention after that. Crisis stabilization. I'm all about, as soon as you start yelling, I'm taking a few steps back.
Like mentally as a therapist, you start going through those steps of, just breaking it down when someone starts going from 0 to 100. So, for me, what I had to learn was that when you lead with respect and love, you can because you're not going to be able to force anybody's reality to change, because your offense is going to be met with offense.
Right.
Or, but what you can do is you can slowly chip away at their offense, or well, in this case, their defense. You can slowly chip away at their defense and present them with another form of reality. That, not all.
Wait. There goes the camera. That thing loves it around this time. As soon as about 40 minutes in, that's when it usually does it. There it is.
So are you back?
Yeah, no, we're not. So it's your sister's internet connection, obviously. I think, do you guys have other things going on at this time?
No. I'm the only thing that's going right now.
Okay. Well, then it's her internet connection. Wherever she lives, it's not a stable connection. It must be from being on base.
She got 5G. So is the camera back on?
No, you're not back on. It says RJ. It says RJ. It don't say me. It's under you. Because it said me before, but this says you. Your camera is disabled. Because
it still has you. I still see you.
Yeah, and I can't see you. So that's why I said it always does that. It did that last time. There you go. There you go. You're back. So
it's imperative that we seek to try to offer alternatives to these arguments, to these people's hard stances on what it means to be somebody that's not them. Because by offering, you leave it up to them to be willing to accept what you're giving them. Now, again, don't offer them feelings, don't offer them opinions, because opinions, and everyone has opinions, like, just like they got feet, but when you offer them facts, they can go check those facts.
Right.
That's one thing that, as somebody like, what's her name? Candace Owens, that a lot of the things that she's saying, not everything, but a good 95% of the things that she's saying.
I don't like it. She has her facts.
Yes, you can go check what she's saying. You can actually go double. You can go Carfax her and see what she's saying is actually factual. Now, her facts are delivered with arrogance and delivered with ugliness, which is where she loses a large portion of her audience. But again, it starts a conversation, because again, a lot of what she's saying is very true. So we're going to stop there. This is going to be a part of a series that we're going to talk about racism, because this topic is such a major thing for us. And with both of us being African-American males in America, we felt that we could not do it justice by only talking about it 1 or 2 times. So we're going to stop there. If you liked the conversation, we ask that you continue to tune in for us, join the tribe, and actually participate in the conversations with us. Until next time, we're going to sign out. You guys have a good one.